All right, thank you very much. One of the things that I listen to, well, I can learn, is when you guys talk about things, we are bringing this bus proposition forward. Now, originally, I thought I was going to have you vote on it this evening because we have to put that in the paper with our first advertisement. But we have enough time that we're going to talk about it tonight, and you'll be presented with this proposition the next time we meet on the 20th. Our first advertisement, I believe, is the 29th. So I'm going to turn over the bus proposition conversation to Jen, our transportation director, and Aaron Keyser, our head mechanic. So I'm going to turn it over to them, and then we're going to talk about the financing of buses at the end, okay? So go right ahead.
Got it. All right, cool. Okay, so that was a very hard act to follow. They did an awesome job. So, all right, I'm going to pick it up because I think that'll be easier. Okay, there we go. I don't really do well with this holding here. Okay, so our bus proposition for 2018-19. Our current bus inventory, the average total miles that we travel per vehicle a year is about 12,048, which is a significant amount, which is part of the reason why we need to support a bus replacement program and continue to get new vehicles. We have about 65 passengers buses, which are the full-size buses, 1942 passenger, which are the half-size buses that you see out there, 3 wheelchair buses, 2 4x4 Suburbans, 4 Dodge Caravans. The average total mileage for 2016-17 was 674,728 for the total fleet.
Remind everyone that that's 674,728 miles, 1/10 of a mile at a time. That bus stops, these buses stop over and over again, so don't be enamored by it's only 12,000 miles. It is 12,000 of the toughest service miles of virtually any vehicle on the road. So when we talk about longevity of buses, that definitely goes into the equation.
Yes. So as some of you will remember from last year, we contemplated switching vendors and switching vehicles. We had a lot of conversation back and forth. We have, between Bluebird, being that they're local, we wanted to kind of keep the business local. We experienced some problems with them. I've had a lot of conversation back and forth with a lot of the vendors. We met with Bluebird last February and shared our concerns with them, and they followed through with most of them. They, the previous year, they did not deliver the buses on time. That was a big concern for us because we had started up the school year and we didn't have our new buses. That was the year before. They met that obligation. They got us our buses on time. However, they didn't have rear heaters. So we lost each bus for a day, and that doesn't sound like a lot, but they did meet that obligation. They did, eat the cost on that. They got the heaters in, but we did lose our buses for a day. So we feel like this is our perfect opportunity to try a different vendor, try a different type of bus. One of our biggest concerns with going to a different vendor and having Bluebird local in our area was not having parts and not having the, availability for service and all that. I've had a lot of conversation back and forth, and we've actually worked out with Thomas Built. They are going to surplus parts in our parts area so that we have all of the parts available to us when we need them, and then they will just credit us, as we use them. They traditionally have a higher resale value, the Thomas Built buses. We were lucky enough to have one in-house for a week. They let us have one so the drivers could take them out, the kids could get on and off them. All of the drivers, without talking to each other, which was kind of cool, came back and all had the same feedback. They were amazed as to how much better of visibility they had. They said they rode better. I don't know how many of you have actually ridden on a bus or have ridden on a bus lately, and especially with the road conditions now. On the Bluebird buses, you get on and you feel like you're getting thrown all over the place. You feel every bump in the road. You know, the kids are up and down in the seats. All of the drivers came back after driving the Thomas bus, and their first comment to me was, "I cannot believe how much better they ride. You don't feel the bumps." It was like, I go over, you go down 9W and you hit those double dips there, and you traditionally go up and down. The drivers said that you couldn't even feel them in those buses. They were just amazed at the difference. The mechanics the newer mechanics anyway, haven't had too much experience with them, but they're easier to work on. The parts, like I said, was a huge concern for us because they are based in Saratoga. We've worked out to where they're going to keep a surplus in-house for us. They have enhanced undercoating. This was another huge selling point for us. What they have developed is what they call a Northeast package. And what that is basically, if any of you have any familiarity with trucks, there's a bed liner called Rhino Liner. That's basically what this is. They undercoat the entire bus with that. In addition to that, it's the bumper and the bottom skirt, which are usually the areas that'll rust out first. This is all included in the price. They're better insulated. What that means is the heat is going to hold better in the cabin for the kids, and there's an overall longer life to the vehicle. And I've done some research with different schools. I've asked around, with schools that use the Thomas-built buses, Bethlehem being one, and they just noticed that they overall last longer with this undercoating. So this is our opportunity to compare and to give them a chance to come in. This is, I wanted to give you an idea of the undercoating. So you'll see the top 3 pictures there. That is a Thomas bus that has been on the road for 4 years. You can see that it's in really good shape. You're not going to see any rust. You don't see really any kind of wear and tear on it. That bottom bus there, the bottom 3 pictures, is one of our buses that have been on the road for 6 months. So it kind of gives you a little bit of a difference of what we can get better at. So what we're asking for is the 6 buses again. We're trying to stay with our bus replacement plan. With the 6 buses per year, we feel like that's a good number to get to where we need to be. And Joanne will speak a little bit more of the pricing. But we're asking for 4 65-passenger Thomas-built diesel buses with air conditioning. The reason for that is we have a lot of students that have written in their IEPs that they actually have to have air conditioning. And we're finding that more and more the need for the larger buses and to meet these students when they go on field trips, when they go different places, that we need to have those vehicles available for them, because if it's in their IEP, we have to accommodate that. And we're asking for 2 65-passenger Bluebird gasoline buses. The reason for this is the gasoline buses are fairly new. Bluebird came out with them first, and they've had them out for a couple years now. I like what they have done so far with it, and I kind of want to keep Bluebird with us as much as we can to kind of get a feel of what the gasoline buses are going to do. Thomas has a gasoline bus as a demo right now. They have not rolled it out yet because they traditionally will wait until all the bugs get worked out before they actually send them out in the public. So the total purchase price you'll see is up a little bit more from last year, and the reason for that mainly is for the air conditioning, because that is a higher cost for the buses. So the total cost is $720,463.92. And then I'll turn it over to Joanne to explain the financial.
Before I go over the bus it's an anticipation note analysis. Aaron, do you have anything you want to add about the buses or switching, going to a Thomas Built bus or anything like that? Yep.
It's on, okay. The only thing that my main concern was, like I said, is it on? It's on, okay.
Yep.
Sorry. My main concern, like I said, but we pretty much got them mostly ironed out. You know, if they're going to stock parts for us, that's all well and good. You know, I hope they can own up on the service end of it if we do end up needing something. Like I said, it is quite a ride for us in case we were to have to bring a bus there or wait for them to come to us. You know, it's all part of the trial and error process. If we're going to try it, you know, we got nothing to lose, I suppose. The only thing that worried me was the resale portion. I mean, we keep our buses, as you guys know, 10, 12, 14 years, you know. That resale value, granted, you know, at an aggressive replacement plan might work. For us, I don't really see it working. You know, 10 years, 200,000 miles, they're pretty much scrap value, and we know that from experience. You know, so we'll just have to wait and see. You know, maybe with the undercoating and the things that they've got going on, maybe, you know, it'll help us out.
In the inventory list, I don't see where Thomas is listed at all, though. So what Thomas buses do we have now?
We have none.
Okay.
They went to the dealer to drive them?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
They went to, you said our people enjoyed driving them. Did they go to the dealer? Or?
No, they actually brought the bus to us. They had a DOT bus that came to us, and we were able to utilize it for a week. And we sent it out with a multiple, probably about 7 different drivers. We sent it out on in-district runs, we sent it out out of district, we sent it on field trips, just so everybody could get an idea of the, you know, the vehicle and to give us feedback to see if it was a, you know, a good time to make the change.
And that's where you got the pictures from then, from the undercoating?
Yeah.
Based on that
Yes.
bus, which was 4 years old?
Correct.
Okay.
So comparison-wise, I see all the pluses with the switch. What is the price differential by going with one with the other? I mean, obviously, I think the one would be a little bit more because it sounds like they offer you more.
Yeah, it's probably about a $3,500 difference. It's really not bad. They were very competitive.
Okay.
They really want our business back. We did have Thomas Built years ago, before our time, obviously. We were all Thomas Built. And then Bluebird kind of came in over, you know, their technology was better. It made sense to switch over to Bluebird at that time. And now we're at a point where Thomas Built has just, you know, surpassed most of the other vendors now, and it makes sense to make the switch now.
I got several concerns with this, and you can go through them. The whole point to having the same fleet, just like when you talk with Southwest, driving Boeing 737s, all your mechanics know how to fix them, all your drivers know how to drive them, everybody has the same thing. Now we're saying that 95% of our fleet is basically inferior, doesn't have a good ride, everybody doesn't like them. We got this new flashy, shiny bus that is better in every aspect. I just don't understand how, since 2003, what has changed that we're just now saying that we're finally all Bluebird, finally all trained up, all the parts on deck, ready to go, that we're going to change vendors and go to a whole new bus that we have no experience on, we have no inventory of. So now you're telling me the next 15 years we're just going to get rid of all these Bluebirds? Well, then somebody shiny, it doesn't make sense to me. And the things that you had written, as far as why we're switching, to me they are all, sounds like you had a bad account manager or something. They're all fairly not a big deal. I mean, I would care more about how the bus runs, how the bus holds up. But as far as missing a delivery here and there, that sounds like a relationship that we need to work on. I don't know if that's the death knell to switch our entire fleet over. Because that's the way I'm viewing this. 1 or 2, fine, but we're basically saying we're going to switch our entire fleet over. And now we're also bringing in a third fuel source, which we just spent money upgrading our 2 depots for the other ones. So I just not seeing where this was in the 5-year plan. I don't remember ever discussing this, so it kind of catches me by surprise.
Oh, I can speak to that a little bit. I mean, we are not making a suggestion that we're going to switch out our entire fleet, not by any means. We are going, and we talked about this last year, we really wanted to change our vendor last year because some of it was a relationship issue, but some of it was also an opportunity. We don't know what else is out there. Very often there's other opportunities for us. It's a Cummins engine, the Thomas Built has. It's a good engine. It gives us an opportunity, and you can speak to that, Aaron, but I think that it's a perfect opportunity. It's by no means is it to go away from something
But
that
to see
is
that benefit's going to take a decade. And I'm not saying it now is obviously, the best time to plant a tree is 25 years ago, but,
Yep.
Second best time's today. So I understand wanting to change, but as far as what's out there, to me, there better be a pretty darn good benefit to change over from everything we know.
Correct. And again, I'm not telling you that we're changing over everything, but there will be no way we can ever evaluate it if we don't change, if we don't try something new. And as far as gasoline, diesel, and propane, some of the benefits are, now gasoline buses are relatively new. We have the gas to do that. We have the gas to fuel it. Gasoline buses stopped being used in great volume a while ago because they didn't have the power that the diesel buses had. Am I correct on that? So they came back in with the gasoline. It's a relatively new one to bring it back, so we're going to try that with New York bus sales. Diesel engines are they're heavy, they're a solid bus. We all know a good diesel engine on a school bus. We hear them when they come through. But then again, there was the diesel, the idling, that created a problem. Better now. And the other thing is that our propane buses, while they are great and we have no intentions of walking away from them at all, they limit us sometimes on the distance we can drive. So it's good for us to have different avenues to experiment with and make a decision. Now, we will be in close contact with mechanics. If Aaron calls me up in 4 months from now and says this is crazy, then we'll know to not, maybe we won't go and continue expanding our fleet. But I don't see us switching over everything at all. So that's not our intent.
And the other big thing you brought up was the undercoating. I mean, if it's that amazing, I think we need to pressure Bluebird to say you need to develop this. It's not just us. I mean, and I saw you up there, said undercoating not working as well. I'm not sure what kind of undercoating that is, but typically people would...
Okay. Bluebird does have an undercoating right now, and what they do is they come in, every year they have to come in and spray the buses, and it's a huge mess.
Well, say we don't want that one. We want this one.
Correct. We want one that's done, and it's done for the life of the vehicle.
Right.
Right now, Bluebird they don't have that. They don't offer it. They aren't even at that part in the technology. That's why I was speaking to the part where the technology has just surpassed Bluebird at this point.
Are there third parties? Because 95% of our fleet don't have this. That can apply this, or is this proprietary Thomas?
It's strictly Thomas, because Thomas was bought out by Mercedes-Benz. So all of that technology came to those buses. This is an undercoating that goes under all of the Mercedes cars, the Mercedes Sprinters. So it's specific to that vendor. It's not anything that's offered.
Go to an outside company that does the spraying and say, can you spray our buses? How much would it cost?
You could have you could have the spray come in, but again, it would be an additional cost, right?
Well,
where they're including it
like
in the price of the vehicle.
May be worth it. So.
But let's go through the band analysis too, because the board asked me if I would show them where that comes off and where do we start to even out our payments. So what I did was I brought you back to June 30th, 2017. And again, this column where it says amount outstanding, you have this in your package, it's a little small, but we're going to go through this. This is how much on the balance is on every band. What a bond anticipation note is we borrow a lump sum for every time we buy buses in a group. We divide that over 5 annual amounts. That's what we're going to have to pay down each year for each one. And we refinance that band every single year. So at the end of 6/30/2017, we owed $1.9 million in our buses. We paid down in the 17-18 school year $539,000. You'll see at the top there's a $60,000 payment and a $61,000 payment and a $72,000 payment. Those were years when we didn't buy as many buses. We kind of fell behind. Our buses got older and older, higher and higher mileage, and then when I came in, we ended up buying $870,000 worth of buses. And that brought our payment up to $174,000. The year before that, we bought $683,000 worth of buses, and it was $170,000. So again, that's how we do it. So we paid down $539,000, and then the following year, our outstanding with $705,000 in buses, we owed now $2.1 million. Again, the annual pay down goes up because we have to even out from the $61,000 payments way down here to the $174,000 payment per year. And again, the pay down in 18-19, the next year, is going to be $619,000. Here's where you're going to see the $720 that we're asking right now for. That's going to be in the outstanding amount at the end of the next school year at $2.2 million. And our pay down in the following year is going to be $702. Again, we're not quite evening out yet because we still have these lower amounts on here. We still have a high one from 174, but again, we made a decision to buy 6 a year, and you'll see how this will even out. The amount outstanding in June 20 is $2.2 million. Again, our pay down, I'm assuming we're going to buy $740,000. I am making some assumptions. Our pay down is going to be $778 in that year. Again, I know it's a commitment, but we have to do so. Where we live, we need a good, solid fleet of buses. The following year, I'm assuming we buy another $740,000. Inflation that could be a little higher. I don't expect it to be hundreds of thousands of dollars higher or lower. We'd have $2.2 million that we owed on our buses at the end of the 21 school year. Then when we get down to 21-22, you're going to see that it's $755,000 that we owe, which again starts to even out. We go to 778, 755. Again, now I'm increasing it to 750,000 in the 2021 year, and again, our payments go to 731. So that's when you're going to start to see it start to even out, and that's at the 2021 school year, 778, 755, 731. We'll get there if we buy a consistent number of buses annually. That's what we need to do. We had a few years, there was a year where we didn't buy any, and then we only bought 1, 2, or 3. And again, you can see what that does. We need to stay on a consistent replacement plan. And I know the board had asked that, when does that start to even out? And that's what I'm trying to show you based on some assumptions.
Meeting you mentioned that there's the potential for a change in the formula of state aid. How could that possibly impact us down the road?
It could impact us because what they're saying is expenditure-driven aids the expense that you're aided on can't go up by more than 2%. So we'll have to keep that in play. That could have a negative effect on a lot of things we do because that counts in our building aid, our excess cost or reimbursement for our high-cost children, transportation aid, instructional aids that are library, things like that. So that could have a negative effect. And Jim, I do understand your concern about switching vendors, but I do think it's an opportunity for us to do so.
I just worry about grass is greener. I've seen it lots of times, and then all of a sudden you're kicking yourself. And we're doing 4. I don't know if maybe 3 and 3 is better, but just something to think about. You guys do this day in and day out. I'll put my trust in you. I just worry about us finally getting a fleet to where I thought we were going and then saying, oh, let's try something new. I do unfortunately see that in a lot of other places, and even in our district. Let's try something that's, the hot new ticket today, and then, oh, that didn't work, let's try something new, and before you know it, I have 15 different types of buses, and the mechanics don't have parts, and
Yep.
Slippery slope, in my opinion.
Yep, I appreciate that.
Are these all the buses on the list, or are there other buses that are broken down somewhere? Because I don't see my son's bus on there. 260.
That's because it just broke.
Okay. So that's what I mean. So there are other buses that are sitting out there
That's
that are...
the only one left. That was the only one.
All right. So what's his new number?
262.
Okay, thank you.
Those are part of the buses that we want to get rid of.
Okay.
Those are the
Well, I
older
figured
buses.
it's one of the
Those
older...
are the Caterpillar engines that give us, a ton of trouble. I've been trying to get rid of them for years, and we're just not at the point where hopefully we can go ahead and lead them right at it.
I had 2 questions. So, obviously with all Bluebird, some of the concerns and complaints that we have, I think leaning on the local supplier and saying, okay, we want something different from an undercoating, whether you go out and you have somebody else do it, whether it's, Z-Bar up on Central Ave, there's other places where you buy your vehicles and they spray the undercoatings on there. So there's definitely opportunity, and I think if we have the whole fleet, I think we can push a little bit harder and ask them to do something different, and maybe we do it with the buses we get this time around. We just force them to do something different and find a way to do it and satisfy us. Otherwise, they can kind of start to feel that we may potentially start looking somewhere else. If we do go with the Thomas buses, which again is kind of on you guys to figure out. But I share the same concerns that, Mr. Ladder said with just kind of converting and looking at a whole different direction. And then the second part is, next year, what are we looking at for replacement? You know, I kind of went through here quickly, and I came up with potentially 5. Most of them are the 42-passenger diesels. So is that kind of what you're thinking next year?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, competition is great, and I think, you know, it might be a good to light a fire under them. They're a local business, and maybe they've taken us for granted. So we can send that message, but let's just make sure there's not a follow-up there and working on that relationship, because
we
they
understand
are
that.
more convenient.
Yep, we understand that.
Aaron, I have just one quick question, just from my knowledge. What do we have to outsource as far as our mechanic? Where are our capabilities here? Like, what do we have? We have to send the bus out to get body work done? Like, what can we do in-house? Can we paint? I'm just curious.
No, we can't paint. We do minor body work repairs right in the shop. We took down the paint booth last year as part of the capital project. You know, it needed tons of money to fix, and we can't do it anymore.
Well, mechanically?
Mechanically, you know, we can do just about everything that we need to. Our only limitation right now between warranty issues and software. You know, we haven't really been trained necessarily on some of the newer stuff. I'm looking into it with all the different companies. I know Thomas offers a training class for all of their new stuff, because they run a totally different system as far as the lights and interior things. They run on a multiplex system. So, you know, over the next course of the few years, I'm sure it's going to be just like the schools. And, you know, technology is really our only downfall. You know, we don't get into rebuilding motors anymore at this point. The ones that do end up doing it, you know, they're not worth rebuilding.
Right.
You know, other than that, we try to keep everything we can in-house. You know, some of the maintenance equipment we will outsource and give that to Crossroads or other places if we don't have a chance. It's a time frame thing between trying to balance what we have going on daily, you know, the driving situations, the snowstorms. You know, we'll do the best we can to keep everything we can in-house, but there's definitely things that, you know, we have to send out.
Right, and I agree with the technology changing. Maybe that's something else we need to look into. You know, 5 years down the road, you know, the mechanic's job might be a lot different, and we sort of need to be prepared for that instead of all of a sudden going with a new bus and it hitting us in the face.
That was part of the plan when it came to the Caterpillar motors.
Yeah.
Caterpillar had the rights to their software and only them. Since then, New York Bus Sales, and I'm sure there's other companies, have been granted to be able to work on them. So now we have, you know, a Caterpillar service department in bus sales. They're able to work on. They're able to work on Cummins. All the things that we normally would have to send to the dealer themselves, you know, it's coming back to us. It's just a matter of how long will the technology be, you know,
Viable.
stuck with them as opposed to being available to the public.
Right. Thank you.
When you mentioned warranty issues, what's the impact on that with it being based in Saratoga versus Ravena? So
You know,
many of the new buses.
I can't speak on anything of the new buses. I have no idea. You know, right now we're probably, when it comes to warranty work, if it has to go someplace other than New York Bus Sales, the only place we have them really going at the moment is DePaula Ford. All the new buses, all the new propanes are Ford Roush motors. They're having issues with the manifold bolts breaking. Still under warranty at this point. So right now it's probably about a 2-week turnaround. We'll get one out to them, you know, depending on their workload, all the above. A couple weeks later we'll get it back. The next one goes out. We have one more right now, and then that should pretty much solve where we're at with warranty. The only other warranty issues we have now are software updates. All the new Cummins and Allison transmissions, they run a software update. You know, I'm hoping it's kind of like a bug. You know, they seem to be doing 2 or 3 at a time. Knock on wood, we've been good so far, but the first couple weeks were a little tough for sure.
So this is different than our cars that we would have under warranty, where there's required maintenance or there's required check-ins?
We do all of our required maintenance at the intervals or as close to as we can. You know,
that would have to be done up there?
No, we do all that.
Okay.
Yep, that's all us. Anything that falls under the powertrain or interior body components, usually, like I said, New York Bus Sales is pretty good. They work with us really well. Give them a call. You know, if they can get it, they'll get it. If not, we'll do the same thing that we would do on the Thomas buses. You know, go ahead and throw a heater motor in it. We'll reimburse you and go from there.
Any other questions? All right, guys.
Thank you.